Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Now that all the council members are present, I call to order the August 17th meeting of the City of West Sacramento City Council Redevelopment, Successor Agency, and Finance Authority. I would like to begin with dedicating today's meeting in memory of David Paul Farmer Sr., who was born on April 10th, 1947, in Jacksonville, Florida. He entered into rest on August 6, 2022. David attended James Marshall High School in West Sacramento and graduated in 1966. In 1967, he enlisted and proudly served in the United States Army for 3 years as a helicopter crew chief and mechanic. Dave received the Air Medal with Valor, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the National Defense and Good Conduct Medal. He made it home safely and was honorably discharged from the Army in February 1970. Shortly after being discharged from the military, Mr. Farmer attended Sacramento City College and received an associate degree. He continued his education at Sacramento State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. During his college days, he worked as a gas station attendant and later accepted a job offer with the Yolo County Sheriff's Department. In 1971, Dave married the love of his life, Irene Tenorio, who herself was a longtime West Sacramento resident, and they have 2 children, Melissa and David Jr. After a few years with the Yolo County Sheriff's Department, Dave worked for the Sacramento Police Department, the California State Lottery. In 1987, Mr. Farmer was hired as one of the first police officers at the newly incorporated city of West Sacramento. His duties under the supervision of Officer Ron Moore were to create a new police force. This is where he would begin and end his career. He served as a patrol officer, detective, sergeant, and then promoted to lieutenant. During his time as a police officer, he would often go to schools and talk to kids, and known to this day as Officer Farmer. Dave finally decided to retire in 2007 to spend time with his family, friends, and to travel. Additional testimony from Miss Rebecca Rhodes shared, "I went to Holy Cross, and when I was in the 5th or 6th grade, he came to visit our classroom as an officer to let us know if there were any problems, we could reach out to him. He was very much into the community and very kind to us children. Through the years, I ran into him in the grocery store and different places around West Sac with his wife. They were always so thrilled how he made such an impact on us. When I would say, 'Officer Farmer,' he would have a big smile, and I always shared my memories with him." Steve Palmer shared that in the early 1980s, along with Jim Cameron, a local attorney and son of the retired Yolo County Sheriff, formed a car club for lowriders at Holy Cross Church. They were incorporated as a nonprofit and were called Los Únicos. They were active for 10 years. He also helped start youth boxing with a fellow deputy sheriff. And when he served as a juvenile officer, his interest and aim was prevention. He helped some to remove themselves from the gang injunction. He definitely made an impact in this community in his years. Miss Rhonda Morningstar Pope Flores shared her memories of Mr. Farmer in Miss Queen's kindergarten class in Elkhorn, where he taught stranger danger, and he was her hero from then on. Mr. Farmer also served on the Washington Unified School Board for 4 years, was president to the West Sacramento Little League, and was coach to many kids. Dave was a man who loved his family, friends, life, and his dog Daisy. He is a true legacy in West Sacramento, and he will be greatly missed. Thank you to the family for all that you have done in sharing in his dedication and sacrifices and support and his service to our community. Thank you. We will begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we live, work, learn, and commune is the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place, and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous peoples who are still connected to this land on which we gather. The council did meet in closed session this evening to discuss items listed on the agenda, and we took no action on those items. Now, I would like to invite our guests to join council and staff in the pledge, which will be led by the West Sacramento Little League IOU TOC champs and AAA Yankees. So please come up to the mic and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bring them up. Bring the boys up.
You can go ahead and sit there and lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance.
For the mic.
Thank you so much for doing that today. Yes, great job. As noted in our agenda, we are prohibited by state law from discussing or taking action on items that are brought up under item 1, but it provides an important opportunity for a public forum. We ask that anyone wishing to address the council on this or any other item this evening, please fill out a request to speak card and return it to the clerk. And in front of the clerk, there is a timer to ensure that everyone has a chance to be heard. We ask that all comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Also in front of the clerk is an analog flip chart which indicates which agenda item the council is currently considering. We accept the request to speak cards up to the conclusion of the reading of the staff report on any particular agenda item. Once the staff report has been read and the council questions and public testimony have begun, we do not accept any further speaking requests on that particular agenda item. If you're addressing a specific agenda item, please turn in your cards in as soon as possible, but definitely before the conclusion of the staff report. We also recognize that for some reason, speaking in public can cause anxiety, so we request that there be no applause, boos, catcalls, or other demonstrations. Furthermore, so that we may maintain a civil discourse here in the chambers, we ask that those in attendance and those who address the City Council abide by the code of conduct posted by the request to speak cards and on the podium, and not speak out loud in threatening, offensive, abusive, or other disrespectful language that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. Next, we will have our public comments. Are there any requests to speak, Madam Clerk?
Our first request is from Timothy Allen.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am Timothy Lee Allen. I grew up in District 1 most of my life. I am here because public comments are part of the First Amendment. It is important to remember there is a fine line between the First Amendment, free speech rights, and content restrictions. I'm here for 2 reasons. One is to provide a comment for a resident who cannot be present tonight, and to please request housing for northern districts of West Sacramento. Hybrid meetings are the new normal. The Yolo County Board of Supervisors and the Yolo Board of Education all have hybrid meetings. For in-person attendance and allows for remote attendance, public participation makes for a democratic communication. Please encourage public participation by conducting these meetings in a hybrid fashion. Now that in-person meetings have resumed, a large percentage of school boards and city council meetings are being held in a hybrid fashion. The Yolo County Board of Education has been holding hybrid meetings for some time. Remote attendance benefits persons who are not able to attend due to a disability. Remote attendance encourages more public participation. In today's world of COVID and monkeypox, remote participation is per with the course. Maria Grijalva would like to request that the mayor, as the presiding officer, conduct city council meetings with an option for online attendance. Maria Grijalva is part of my support systems. Thanks to her, I was motivated to run for city council. Maria protected Broderick and Bright from getting split up. Now that we have district elections, districts 1 and 2 need affordable low-income housing. I applied at Bridge District apartments, but they required that I make more than $3,000 a month, plus the parking fees is ridiculous, which is $3,000 a month. It's $1,300 a month, plus an extra. That $1,300 includes all the expenses, plus another $120 for parking. Another thing that I would like to add to put on the record is that when we were doing online attendance, you guys were passing legislation, or whatever you guys want to say, at 12 o'clock at night when everyone was sleeping. That's not good to do that. I remember like last time I was here, you guys were talking about weed abatement. That was like the last subject before Christopher went ahead and said that we should close because it's almost 12. And I would just like to put that on the record. The next thing is that when I was looking for affordable housing, I was going through the entire list on Google, called every single one of them, and either they were full or elderly, or it was a 5-year wait. 3 things that a person needs to live is food, water, shelter. If you don't have food, you can't live. If you don't have water, you can't live. If you can't have shelter, you can't be protected from the elements. And that will conclude my speech. Thank you.
We have no additional comments on non-agenda item.
Okay, thank you. Next, under presentations, is item 1, which I will pass it on to Mayor Pro Tem Orozco.
First off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I see a sea of baseball, red and blue, and I love seeing West Sacramento represented so wonderfully by the youth and all of the people here supporting them. As my colleagues know, I never anticipated having the great gift of going on a journey with the West Sac Little League. This year, thanks to the mayor who agreed with me that a proclamation and recognition would be appropriate in this case, we're here to honor our 10U and 12U teams for the West Sac Little League All-Stars. Now, being an all-star is more than just playing good ball and wearing a uniform, okay? This is all, boys, listen to me, this is about teamwork, right? You guys learned how to be a team, and you were all from all these different teams and came together as a champions. Not only that, you had to play positions that you otherwise wouldn't play. You had to work together on your weak points and gain your strengths. You had to work on commitment, go into all those long, grueling practices and go into all the games. I worked on your leadership and your courage every time you went up to bat and worried about striking out, but still swung the bat anyway. And you might not know it, but you brought your community together because everybody came out to watch. And you don't know this, but when I work in the snack shack, there are people that don't even have kids that come to eat a hot dog and just to watch you play because all the noise and the energy you bring to our community is so infectious. And finally, you showed great values. You showed your best effort, great sportsmanship, respect for other teams. Someone got hurt, you took a knee, and you made sure that they got up if they ever fell. And for that, we are West Sac proud. I want to commend the parents here and the parents that couldn't make it here. You all invested such tremendous time and effort to make sure these boys got a winning experience. You put in not only the time chaperoning them to practices and to games across town, but shopping for gear and equipment and searching for lost water bottles and parking spots for half of your lives. And for me, it's that cup, the evasive baseball cup that I can never find that's hiding around the house. So commend the parents. But also, we have some coaches here. And the coaches, they put in a lot more time than we even can imagine, right? These are not all their kids, but they are. And they do it for a volunteer purpose. Leave these kids with a lasting experience. I know that they undergo a lot of criticism, a lot of second guessing, and my own husband had to step up as the head coach at two of our All-Star games. So I know how that feels to watch someone you love be in that position and to put themselves out there. But there's also a reward, and it's the pride, not only the pride of the flag and the victory of the moment, but all the true gifts that you have in the reward of touching all these players and what you leave with them. You know, whether they go out to play college ball or leave their hats at Memorial Park after this season, they're always going to carry with them those lessons that they've learned from you and the words of encouragement. Mary Lou Retton once said, "A trophy carries dust, but memories last forever." So, boys, go out, have fun, play hard, and continue to represent our great city. I here hold a proclamation on behalf of the West Sacramento City Council, and it's recognizing the achievements of the West Sacramento Little League 2022 12U and 10U All-Star teams. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I will point out a couple things here. It says, whereas the 2022 12U and 10U All-Star teams had great success in the postseason, beating out all other Sacramento area teams to win the District 6 championship. And whereas the 2022 12U All-Star team consisted of Alex Rodriguez, Blake Paterno, Brian Marine, Carter Jans, Ezra Carrington, Gage Lauder, Fio Lozano, Logan Burton, Lucas Tandy, Mateo Preciado, Noah Couture, Sam Trujillo, Steven De Herrera, Xavier Velasquez, and manager Scott Burton, and coaches Angel Preciado and Steve De Herrera. And whereas the 10U All-Star team consisted of Matthew Santos, Marco Sanchez, Ian Rouser, Zach Brown, Joseph Gutierrez, Micah Negretti, Mason Genie, Mateo Yepes, Mateo Trujillo, also known as mashed potato and baked potato, by the way, because they're both Mateos on the same team. Wyatt Gothan, Wes Machado, Chase Cordum, Alex Victor Jr., Mark Torres, and manager Mario Santos, and coaches Jose Yepes and Marcus Santos. And whereas a special commendation is due to the West Sacramento Little League 12U and 10U All-Star teams for an exciting and hard-fought season and for joining a long line of winning teams representing West Sacramento. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of West Sacramento does hereby commend and congratulate the 12U and 10U All-Star teams for their accomplishments and, most importantly, their great show of sportsmanship throughout the tournaments. I'd like the coaches of both teams to come up and receive these proclamations. And I'd like for the players to come and line up behind me and for our city council to come down and take a photo with our All-Stars. Coaches, maybe next to your team. Right, little ones in the there we go. Was it ours?
going to do the cue.
Hello?
Just checking. Oh, guys, last thing. These memories that you are making as someone who I played basketball, but a sport your age all the way through college, treasure these memories. You have made lifelong friends. I still talk to my friends that I played with. We are so proud of you as a city. I hope you know that. We were all rooting for you. I can't wait to come to your games next year, and I hope you know that we appreciate you, and I hope you are proud of yourselves. Thank you so much.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. We have another presentation, but I'm going to give that one a few more minutes before we get started on that one. What I would like to go over is our consent agenda. Items 2 through 12, are there any requests to pull any item from the agenda? Okay, I would like to pull item 11. And just have a few questions regarding item 11. Oh, sure. Thank you so much. Under item 11, the grand jury report, which brought to our attention the situation around inspecting the inspectors, the hiring practices of the City of West Sacramento Building Division. And, I found it very concerning, of course, and just wanted to get an update on, prior to the grand jury report, if there was a way that we identified it and addressed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm Andrea Aus. I'm the Director of Community Development. Yes, in fact, prior to the grand jury report and the investigation, we had been making some significant changes, not only to the management structure in the building division, but to the practices in terms of following up on certifications to ensure that our staff are certified to do the work that they are hired to do, and to ensure that on an annual basis, the certifications are validated and followed up on. So we had been doing a lot of work to improve the accountability and to ensure that moving forward, we keep the public's safety entirely in mind and at top priority.
Thank you so much. I think that, that was a concern of mine, just to see what the status of that. And Councilmember Alcala.
I've served on a grand jury for Yolo County, so have you already submitted responses to F1 through F4?
Yes, we have it attached to the staff report, our draft response, and it goes through each one of the recommendations. That's correct.
And on the independent auditor, or the independent audit, how will that be done? What's the process for that?
In terms of the independent audit, well, the subject of the complaint, who is no longer a member of the organization, had done approximately, over 1,000 inspections So we believe that it would be difficult, if not impossible, to follow up on each one of those inspections. However, we are committed to ensuring that the public has utmost confidence in our ability to do inspections and certified inspections. So the independent audit will take place in the form of if there are concerns by the public about work that may have been done that was inspected by the subject of the complaint, we will follow up with no charge to ensure that they have confidence in our ability to check the work.
Good to hear. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions among the members? Okay, next is, thank you so much. Next is item 12, consideration of resolution 22-113, declaring the city of West Sacramento a defender of reproductive freedom. And Ms. Candelaria Vargas, Planned Parenthood, Director of Public Affairs from the California Coast, Mar to the Sierra Nevada Monte, please come up to the podium. And
Good evening, Honorable.
let me just go down there.
Oh, sure.
So I just want to say thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. I know that as City Council, we are supportive of protecting our reproductive freedom here in West Sacramento. And so this resolution, and you're bringing it to our attention and our involvement with our local, and state and federal officials, and the decision that happened in the Supreme Court, I think is just an egregious act on the rights of women and their choice for reproductive freedom. So this resolution, whereas California has worked to make reproductive freedom a fundamental right for all Californians by guaranteeing privacy regarding reproductive decisions and protecting a person's right to make independent reproductive choices, including whether or not to terminate a pregnancy, and whether reproductive rights are under attack in this country as states enact laws that restrict or ban abortion with serious implications for reproductive freedom in communities across the country. And whereas abortion restrictions, bans, and limitations to reproductive freedom disproportionately impact populations that already face barriers to accessing care, including communities of color, individuals with low income, immigrant communities, youth, and rural communities. And whereas autonomy and agency in reproductive matters are central to secure gender, economic, and racial equality in all aspects of life. And whereas sufficient access to reproductive care is central to individuals' ability to retain autonomy over their body, their choice to have children or not have children, and parent the children they have in safe and sustainable communities. And whereas the city of West Sacramento believes everyone, no matter their background, economic status, or reproductive choices, should be treated with dignity and equity. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of West Sacramento is hereby a defender of health, equity, and reproductive freedom for all, so that anyone may have access to the reproductive services they need when they need them. Be it further resolved that the city of West Sacramento calls on the United States Congress to protect reproductive freedom nationwide by enacting legislation to protect access to abortion and other reproductive care without government interference. This will be passed and adopted today by City Council, so I will sign it after that is taken care of, and we'll send that to you. But I will now ask for your words, thanking you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mayor Guerrero and Honorable City Council members. It really means a lot to us and our patients to see you today taking action on this item. It's very important. I know here in California, some may think that this is not an issue, but it very much is an issue. I'll share that I've been working very hard with my colleagues on safety and security for our patients and staff, where not too far away from here, which is our local, our nearest Planned Parenthood Marmonte Health Centers in Sacramento, have been regularly harassed by anti-abortion protesters. And it's been very detrimental for our staff and our patient mental well-being and health. So it means a lot to our communities. It really does, to let them know that you care about their well-being, about their health, about their access. We are so grateful not just to the state legislature, but our local counties and our cities who are taking action just like you are today. It really means a lot. I'll share that here in Yolo County, we have a mobile pregnancy center bus. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the kind of folks that they're the crisis pregnancy centers that pretend to be like abortion providers or, reproductive health providers, but they're not. And so there have been a lot of studies around crisis pregnancy centers that really mislead people into thinking that they're providing health care, but they're not. Guttmacher has shared that vast majority of these crisis pregnancy centers are giving very misleading and harmful information that delay access to reproductive health care. And so this is very pertinent for us all here to see this today because we actually have this type of harm being done in our community. So it means a lot coming from you all today to take action on this. And since I have 3 minutes, I'll go ahead and make sure I'm not missing anything else in my comments. But I just wanted to share that these crisis pregnancy centers really do, and the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court decision, really does impact our communities of color, our communities of lower income, and folks who don't have higher educations. And so this is really speaking very much to the benefit of our community, and we really greatly appreciate it. And I will leave you with that tonight. I know you all are very busy, but we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'll open it up to my colleagues if you have any comments.
So this topic is, I think, a very special place for me. I got really exposed to Planned Parenthood and the work that you all do working for family planning. I was over Family PAC, which I'm sure you're very, very familiar with, for Department of Healthcare Services. And Family PAC is a program that allows for women and men to have access to reproductive health, contraception, education at no cost, whatever they need. And a lot of the health care that is provided for many of our folks, not just reproductive health, but all health, is done by Planned Parenthood. I worked closely with you over the years, did research and published on this, and also had to walk the lines in which people were picketing and throwing blood and all of the things. I want you to know that we stand with you. We understand what you and your organization and your team are going through. It is awful, all for us, that we have access to healthcare, true healthcare that impacts your moms, your sisters, your daughters, all the women in this country. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, it's not always well known that the #1 healthcare service that we provide is STI health screenings, and a lot of people don't realize that. So thank you so much for sharing.
I don't know if I can top that, but I will say, as I guess the longtime council member, this is always, I don't think we ever thought we'd have to do this. And while we've passed resolutions during my tenure here, supporting various causes, this one hits especially at home, and I appreciate you coming out and really providing an image to all of our constituents, the thousands of people watching tonight. But really, I know it hits home to our constituents, to our residents, to our families. So I appreciate the work you're doing. Again, I'm a bit appalled that we even have to pass such a resolution, but we will. And I think the message we are sending in the full backing of our council is we have your back and we're with you. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the mayor and to you both for standing for this position. I stand with my colleagues that in maintaining that it is surreal. I know that many of us were in Washington, D.C., if not all of us, actually, when word came out, and a council member Early and I were at the Supreme Court listening to speeches, trying to absorb the gravity of what was happening at that time. About a week and a half ago, I'm a sex assault child abuse prosecutor, and about a week and a half ago, I tied up a case involving a young girl who had been molested by her stepfather for 8 to 9 years, and she suffered 7 abortions during that time between the ages of 11 and 17. And I made sure that the press release included that information because I don't think that many people understand that these things are happening and they're real and they're happening to people that live in our region and children and people who, if they weren't able to exercise that right, then what? Where does the weight lie? But I'm proud of our city. I'm one of the representatives on the Women's Caucus for the League of California Cities, and it will make me very happy to tell my colleagues that this is a step that we took and it's in the right direction. So thank you, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember
So,
Alcala.
thank you. I was going to say, attack on civil liberties by this politically charged Supreme Court that we have now. I don't think any of us ever imagined anything like that happening. And I can only remember my grandmother, who was a nurse, she would tell me women would come in, and die because they did not have, access to the type of services that we do now. And I'm just glad we're passing this resolution. So I would like the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second. Oh, you probably want to say something.
They would be on the consent agenda as well. Thank you to my colleagues with your depth of experience, engagement, involvement, and support for this resolution. I can't think of a, more experienced city council than ours in the region to be here for you and provide the leadership that you need.
Thank you.
And thank you for educating us on what's going on and the tactics that are being played to try to prevent, women from getting access to the support they need.
Right.
So with that, we have the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, we have Councilmember Alcala who moved and Councilmember Early who seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Early. Aye. Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orozco.
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Candelaria. And next on our regular agenda is item 13 under capital projects is consideration of professional services contract with Dewberry for construction management and inspection services, the project plans and specifications, a construction contract to B&M Builders, Inc., and purchase of additional electrical materials from ASCO Supply for the North Riverwalk Trail Extension Project. And we have, presenting today, we have Ms. Joanna Ortiz, Assistant Engineer with the Capital Projects Department. And I think Ariana will also be joining in the presentation, right? You may begin.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the...
Oh, you have that? Okay.
I'm having some trouble with my mouse. I'm having to reboot real quick, sorry.
Pressing her. It's okay. I went in. Mhm.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Joanna Ortiz, and I'm an assistant engineer with the Capital Projects Department. Today, I am here with Ariana Adame, who's the Capital Projects Department Director, to jointly present on the North Riverwalk Trail Extension Project. I will begin the presentation, and then I will hand it off to her. But before I begin the presentation, I would like to mention that an errata memo was circulated prior to this meeting due to a typo error in the agenda report. On page 3, the name of the construction company, McGuire and Hester, appears twice in table 1. The third column should be replaced with Martin Brothers Construction Company, whose bid came in third. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be discussing. To start off, I'll be giving you a short background of the project and the proposed improvements. Next, I'll go over the project funding and project schedule, and then Ariana will review the community benefits of the project and the recommendation. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at the end of the presentation. On February 18, 2015, City Council adopted the Washington Realized document, a strategy intended to shift development patterns towards compact, transit-served, and mixed-use development. The complete community strategy in the Washington Realized recommended that investments in the northern waterfront section of the district should be focused on paved path connections that enhance the security between D Street and the Project Boat Ramp, enhancing and reinforcing the public nature of circulation connections to the waterfront, and supporting and encouraging private development that activates the Riverwalk upon the completion of the new I Street Bridge improvements. So this is an exhibit which shows an overview of the project. Everything you see in green will be asphalt concrete, and everything in orange is concrete. The trail will start at the existing I Street Bridge and will extend all the way to the Project Boat Ramp. Most of the trail will be asphalt concrete, but there is a small concrete portion, which is a ramp, that was supposed to connect to this trail to the existing Riverwalk Trail. But there is a small gap that will remain unpaved underneath the I Street Bridge, and this is because we didn't receive permission from Union Pacific Railroad to do an undercrossing at this location. But residents will still be able to walk from the existing Riverwalk Trail through the concrete ramp and up to the new paved trail all the way to Project Boat Ramp. There will also be lighting added throughout the entire trail, which will enhance the safety of the users. Sorry, you can keep. Yeah, go back. Yeah, thank you. In addition, we do have a high water route for the rainy season in case the ramp is flooded. The high water route will go from D Street through 3rd Street to 2nd Street, and then will connect to the trail. This project is ADA compliant, so both the high water route and the concrete ramp will be ADA compliant. There is a portion of this work that will be completed with the second phase of the project, and the second phase will include an at-grade crossing through Union Pacific Railroad on 3rd Street. This project will also complete streetscape improvements along the west side of 3rd Street between C Street and D Street. These improvements will include sidewalks, landscaping, and lighting. We are also adding a mid-block crossing on 3rd Street between D Street and E Street. For this mid-block crossing, we will also be adding rectangular rapid flashing beacons to enhance the safety and visibility of its users. Along the south side of C Street between 3rd and 4th Streets, we will also be adding sidewalks, landscaping, and lighting. We will also be adding a protected right turn lane turning into 3rd Street. Also, it's not shown in this exhibit, but we will also be doing some additional work on the communications tower that is at the corner of 3rd Street and B Street. And this is to prepare it for the new art installation. So moving on to the funding, this project is federally funded. We have approximately $719,000 of CDBG funds, or Community Development Block Grant funds for construction, which are administered by HUD. We also have approximately $1.3 million in congestion mitigation and air quality, or CMAQ funds for construction, which are administered by Caltrans. Now moving on to the project schedule, the project was bid in July per federal regulations. Pursuant to Public Contract Code, staff determined that the lowest responsive bidder was B&M Builders. Upon approval of the construction contract, staff will issue notice to proceed. This project is expected to span 90 working days, which is approximately 4 months. And Ariana will now provide some information regarding the community benefit for this project.
Good evening. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Ariana Dami, Director of Capital Projects. I just wanted to highlight a few of the community benefits of this project. The project is located, it'll directly impact the residents of 3rd Street and Broderick in the Washington District. However, it's going to be a benefit for all city residents. This project is a project that, as mentioned, was sprouted out of the Washington Realized Planning document. It's a highly anticipated amenity for this neighborhood. This is a disadvantaged area of the city that is in great need of these improvements. This project will not only provide an outdoor amenity for the residents, but will also enhance the safety of the neighborhood by the installation of the landscaping, the increased lighting, the improvements to the sidewalk, and the installation of the mid-block rapid flashing beacon that was mentioned, making it safe for pedestrians to cross the street. This project goes beyond just a construction of the trail that's mentioned in the title. It also provides vital infrastructure improvements. It improves the pedestrian safety and provides a bike path for this disadvantaged area. Staff recommends approval of all of the requested actions in the agenda report for the following reasons. If delayed, the future project grant funds mentioned, CDBG funds, could be placed in jeopardy due to failure to meet timeliness expenditure requirements. If we do not approve the project tonight, we may need to reallocate the CDBG funding of approximately $700,000 in order to meet this timeliness test. I'd like to note that we don't have any other projects really lined up to be able to meet that timeliness requirement. That would mean we would need to identify an additional funding source for the shortfall of the $700,000, which will be hard pressed to do, to be honest, if we don't have a backup funding source for that. If we do not approve the project tonight and we need to also rebid the project, we could run into the risk of getting much higher bids. The market right now is coming in. We actually anticipated them to come in higher than they actually did. So we're pretty happy with the results. This project is federally funded, as mentioned. Bids were evaluated according to federal and state regulations, which require that the city award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. This project also has a tight time constraint due to the proposed improvements on the levee. The Central Valley Flood Protection Board restricts construction work on the levee during the flood season, which is from November 1st through April 15th. So we're trying to make that timeline. And lastly, the delay would basically keep long-awaited improvements from being realized to this, to the Riverwalk, which would connect to the Broderick boat ramp and improve the safety of the residents along 3rd Street and the surrounding area. And so with that, that concludes our presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. And are there any questions among the council members at this moment? Member Alcala.
I do have a question. We had a bid advisory. Could you go into a little more explanation?
Go ahead.
Can I defer the question, or you want me to
You
take
can,
a
sure.
stab at it? Well, I was going to defer to Jeff, just to be able to describe the difference between that and the protest.
Right. So first thing to note is this is not a bid protest. This was not filed by a bidder. And therefore, the normal process for evaluating bid protests wouldn't apply here. This is really just a third-party comment on the contract. I've looked at the bid advisory. The issues raised in the bid advisory really go to responsibility, not responsiveness. And responsibility is a much more serious matter than responsiveness for a number of reasons. Most importantly, because from a contractor's perspective, a finding of being not responsible has some significant impacts to their ability to get jobs in the future. So there is a much more formal process that would have to go through for the city to determine a bidder is not. There would be a noticed public hearing, and they'd have an opportunity to respond. The comments that were made in this bid advisory, in my opinion, are all fairly minor. The typical things that trigger responsibility issues are much more serious issues. They are lack of adequate licensing, they are criminal prosecution, they are findings that the bidder has been identified on a debarment list. They are ongoing legal issues with regulatory bodies. The items identified in the bid advisory, while they are real, are relatively minor items that in all likelihood almost any bidder would have in their history. So without more information, and the bid advisory is fairly conclusory on a number of points without providing any information to explain how they reach a conclusion. So frankly, on the information that's been provided so far, I would not feel comfortable finding this bidder not.
And just to close on that, Jeff mentioned the distinction between a bid advisory, which is, again, the form of what we receive, versus a formal bid protest. It's notable that in this case, neither of the other two bidders filed a protest, and that period for filing has closed for time now.
Yeah, so I'm just going to follow that up with one more question. On this bid advisory, it was my understanding that our first choice was in violation with the state. Could you just elaborate a little more on what that violation was? Just so that we're real transparent here.
I don't have the document in front of me, so I know that they identified several things we could.
Yeah, if we're looking at it, I know with the one that you're probably referring to, my recollection is it was a potential underpayment of wage rates on a school project in Fairfield. I think it was about $12,000, if I remember correctly.
It was about $5,000 in underpayment plus some.
For how many employees? I mean, their employees.
I don't recall if it said a number.
Did they make good on it? No?
As far as we know, there was a settlement amount. It was the notification of the calculation, as I recall. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but we don't have. There was no information to suggest it had not. And this was from, as I recall, 2019.
Right. And just, I mean, not related to this particular project, but we have received these advisories in the past on other projects and very similar situations. I don't recall there being any issues with the contract in those cases either. So this isn't the first time we've received a bid advisory. But
right. And I do want to point out that a bid advisory is not it's not a formal thing. It's just what they call their letter.
Right.
So there is no legal thing called a bid advisory.
No, I understood that. I just wanted to know, what specifically the advisory was mentioning.
And
I
look it up.
would hate to give a contract to someone who has a history of underpaying workers. That's why I was asking. That sort of sends up a lot of red flags.
I can speak a little bit to the process in terms of like the contracting. Like I mentioned, this is a federally funded project. And so the prevailing wage is part of the contract language because we're required to put it in there. And so it's something that's monitored on an ongoing basis and tracked during the duration of the project. And so anything that would come up even during the process of the contract would be, checked, not just by the construction management company, but also by staff. So we don't just sign the contract and kind of let them go. We follow up with them and do ongoing monitoring.
Just one final question. What was the difference between bid 1 and bid 2 in terms of money?
It was approximately $500,000, $500,000, if I recall.
Okay.
I am looking at the bid advisory. As far as I can tell from my quick read, it doesn't identify a number of employees. It is failure to pay the correct wage for the craft of cement mason and for the craft of laborer area 2, group 2, in the amount of $2,563.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, council members? Just a quick question on the difference, that 500,000. What was it specifically for?
So the difference between the number 1 and number 2, basically that difference, was mainly a difference between the second proposal or second bid put in a line item, some money for a sub consultant for a structural engineer. So they didn't have that ability in-house, and they added that as an additional recourse in case of they need to rely on that. And that made the difference.
So that was for an additional contractor for the bidder number 2 who didn't qualify. That was the difference.
Yes.
And bidder number 3 was close to the ballpark as well as bidder number 2.
I believe
Perhaps
it's
actually it was higher, 500,000
yeah.
more.
I think there's like approximately, don't quote me on it, about 500,000 difference between each one.
Each one.
Right, it's just under 500,000 between each one.
And what was the estimate that we were looking at to to get this covered?
The engineer's estimate was 2.1 million.
That was so that fit under B&M buildings. And it seemed like it fell between what we were anticipating then.
Yeah, I came in just a little bit over what we anticipated, but just given, again, the volatility of the market, things are coming in extremely high. Just supply chain issues, COVID issues, just the market in general. So we were pleasantly surprised to not only get something close to the engineer's estimate, but also be able to get 3 bids.
Yeah. And it seemed like your timeline was pretty tight to get this out from the advertising to the bid, and you extended it even.
Yes, we did.
And was there a reason why you extended it?
We do a pre-construction or a preliminary meeting to, answer any questions. We had questions, so we thought it was fair to allow a little bit more time for those preparing the bids to be able to adequately prepare their bids. And so that's a common thing we would do to extend. We extended it, I believe, with the Riverfront Extension Project too. It's just something we kind of gauge as we get the response from, interested parties.
So between bidder number 2 and bidder number 3, the difference being 500,000, what was the difference that third bidder came in, you know?
You know that? 2 and 3? No, the reason. Okay. Well, it's the same. Okay.
Another contractor? Oh, Vin.
Vin Kay wants to take this
Come on,
one.
Vin.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I have a lot of experience with bidding, and thankfully, we have a lot of, eager engineers who do their best. This is a good bid. We have 3 good bidders. In this current environment, we're seeing bids that are substantially higher than what we received. The main difference that we can tell, and we do our due diligence every time we open a bid, and we evaluate each of the bidders. The number 3 bidder in this case is sort of higher across the board. So typically what you will see from contractors is they will bid based on certainty and uncertainty. I think the project has relatively good plans and specifications, so therefore we got good bids. Oftentimes, contractors who are uncertain, they would load certain items in the bid schedule just due to the uncertainty. So I think, the low bidder obviously felt more confident in the figures that they put in the bid schedule. So I think that's the primary reason.
Have we ever worked with this bidder before? Do we have any history working with this bidder?
No, not this particular bidder, but B&M Builders, we did our due diligence, as I mentioned. They've done work certainly in West Sacramento. I know they've done work at the CHP Academy. They've certainly done work in the Sacramento region, City of Sacramento, Sacramento County.
Okay. And so the recent actions that took place from 2020 due to not fulfilling the prevailing wage, how do we find out before we approve a bid? How do we take a look? How do we evaluate that internally?
Yeah, when it comes to prevailing wage, right, we have a contract with the prime contractor. We will do everything in our power to enforce prevailing wage requirements consistent with the project. As far as what's occurred in the past, that's really between the, correct me if I'm wrong, City Attorney, but that's really between DIR and the contractor.
Okay. I see.
We can only enforce per our project.
Okay. And Dewberry, is that who's going to be doing the enforcement?
Dewberry is our construction management advisor, so it will be, city staff will be overseeing the project during design and construction. So we will be working with Dewberry to ensure that B&M Builders does exactly what they're supposed to do.
And if there was any cost overrun, how are we going to be handling that? If 2 others, one was by $1 million, the other was by $500,000, to be safe, and I don't know if they didn't spend the money, would we have gotten that back? That's another question separate from that. But on the flip side of B&M, was a little short. And how are they going to come back and ask for more money? Are we going to figure that one out?
That's actually one of the challenges of construction management. That's the contract they sign. That is the contract that we will be executing, and we will do our best to hold them to that contract. So if we need to, if we're to amend the contract, beyond our authority, beyond the city manager's authority, we would return to council.
And that's one of my concerns with the lowest bidder is just seeing that, they can come in with a low bid, but, the security of getting the project done. Now, I don't know what our history is. I'm not asking for that now. Among those is, and then just seeing the history on where it's taken out, from who it's taken out, if maybe that happened in the past, I'm just speculating. But, taking a look at how to cut corners, so they can cover what they signed in a contract.
Right.
I think you heard in this case, though, the engineer's estimate was actually consistent with the low bidder. You heard the reasons for why the second bidder was higher because of the addition of the sub. And like Vin said, the third bidder, it appears, put in probably more contingencies and padded the budget a little bit more given, their assessment of uncertainty. So we hear you on why is there such a difference between the first and third. But we're fortunate in this case, some of our engineers' estimates are older than others, and sometimes that accounts for why bids come in much higher. But on this one, I think we have a relative good degree of confidence that our engineer's estimate is on par with what the project should cost.
And I would add, your questions are legitimate questions. It is a feature of a requirement that it go to the low bidder, that we end up with these questions. Not infrequent to have a question of, did the low bidder underbid? And will they be coming in with change orders partway through the project? And unfortunately, other than the due diligence and making sure you have good plans and specs, that's the way the game is set up, to award to the low bidder.
Yeah, and I would add to that, we've had contractors that way underbid a project below engineer's estimate, and they've gone out of business. But it is our job, construction management team, to make sure they deliver per the contract.
And the timeframe from the beginning to the end of the contract, again, I think that was mentioned.
90 working days?
90 working days.
Right.
To complete the project. At least it's short enough for all of you to closely monitor it. Okay, thank you. And, I just want to see if there's any other questions from my colleagues. No? And thank you so much, Ben. I'll open it up for public comment. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak?
We have no request on this item.
Okay. Close the public comment, bring it back to council. Okay, and I'll ask for, I'll be staying off from this. Seeing the history, I'm a little concerned about the history and what's been done with their not paying prevailing wage. I understand there's more history. I did not receive it in time. And I'm just concerned about, approving a contract, not to influence anybody else's decision. We've been told that this is important to get done on a timely manner. So I'm just conveying to you where I stand.
Madam Mayor, I appreciate that. I was watching and listening to the questions because you guys are way more familiar, right, with this than I am in regards to the history. And I don't know if I'm comfortable either with where we're at. And so what happens if we don't pass this?
Well, I think we just got a presentation saying exactly what happens when we lose the possibility of getting the $719 million, $1,000 federal funds, 1.3 million in Caltrans federal funds that have been allocated to this project, but we stand the possibility of losing that. But it looks to me like we have followed the normal process with every single, that we would follow in every single bid. And we're a general law city. Our duty is to provide the contract to the lowest responsive qualified bidder. I didn't hear that there's any legal basis by which we could reject the contract under the concerns that are raised in something called a bid advisory. That's not a bid protest. That's the formal bid. That's a formal process, right? If there was someone that had a problem with it, they would file a bid protest. Neither one of the other companies did so in this case. So, I mean, while there might be concerns, it doesn't sound to me like there's anything that elevates with any type of substantial proof. This letter came in yesterday, right before this vote. And my concerns are, we have created as a city a vision for transforming the underutilized riverfront area, and we've had this articulated vision of revitalizing it and investing our money in the north side and the folks that have been sitting on land that has been lacking resources for all of this time. And this is our opportunity to enhance the pedestrian, bike, and transit systems in that area and create a more safe community by adding lighting and paved paths, as well as to connect the area of the boat ramp to an area that hasn't been connected in the past. And so, for me, it's just as much an equity issue for a part of our city that hasn't had that investment, but it's also a safety and security issue for the residents there. My concern is that we have to get this done before the flood season begins. which is coming up. We got 4 months to complete it. The consequences of delaying it includes possibly the entire project because we don't have the funds that we would be losing. And it is on budget. We follow the rules of ensuring prevailing wage is paid. And frankly, I don't see, well, of course we should be concerned if there's some substantiated proof of wrongdoing. We just don't have that. And frankly, I just think that delaying this project would be a tremendous disservice to our city, especially the residents that live and reside on the north side of town in the Washington district. So I'm in support.
Okay, I just wanted to say I'm very disappointed that this company did that, but you said they made good on it. Is that correct?
I don't have any information one way or the other. The bid advisory notes the finding, the penalty, but it doesn't say what the outcome was.
Yeah,
So,
and I
I will speculate that if they hadn't paid it, it would have been raised.
Right, and that was, again, I think one of the presenters noted this, that was a project that occurred in a different jurisdiction. All we got was what was attached to the bid advisory in terms of the parent violation, but in our case, we have prevailing wage monitors on staff that are hired to prevent that from happening.
I just don't like people who have done something like that to be rewarded. However, that being said, I am concerned with some of the issues that Councilwoman Orozco brought up, timelines that we have. And the only other thing I want to say is, you know, sometimes you get what you pay for. And I know they came in on time, but I keep thinking about our high school, beautiful high school. But when I was on the board, we heard many of the problems that, I know you're nodding yes, you know, perhaps because that's the very same process we went through. Lowest bid, I don't know.
We do that on all of our public works projects.
Yeah.
We're required to.
Yeah.
I want to just note one other thing to kind of, I think the Vice Mayor did a good job of laying out some of the concerns of not moving forward tonight. I think there's three big ones. The obvious one is the CDBG funding. We don't have another use for it. It's been planned for, I think, 3 years now on this project. We've been talking about doing this project for multiple years. It's one of the most important ones. Current CIP. The second one is the flood time frame. If we don't get on the levee and do the work in the time frame we have allotted, which is very narrow, we lose a construction season, essentially, and that means no project till at least next year. And that relates to the third issue, which is we have what has been, for circumstances that are in our favor, a very favorable bid environment right now. With the delay and the uncertainty of the funding, now we have a funding shortfall and potentially a much higher cost of project to do next year. We lose a whole year as well. So those are at least our three big concerns. I'm sure the project team would have more, but I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody.
I just want to add that, you know, just if we open it up to bid, I think we'd end up with the lowest bidder again. Same ones. I'm anticipating that what would happen. That's currently what we have is our process. I don't think rejecting it today could influence a decision 6 months from now. Same bidder can come back $500,000 more and still be the lowest. So we could be in the same situation, but that is because we have a process where we go by the lowest bid.
That's how we're legally obligated to operate.
That's
It's not a choice we're making.
That's how we're legally
clear,
operate, which is why,
that's
which is
required.
one of the reasons why I'm exploring a project, labor agreement process. But we don't have that process today. So we are in a position of accepting these kind of decisions today. And I want to just put this back out there to see if anybody.
Well, not on this
would like to
project. I'm
change
just
their
going to,
mind.
I'm sorry, I'm making a comment. Not on this project. This project's been in the works for over 10 years through the Washington Sustainable Program. And the city has injected in a lot of funds, a lot of man hours, I've obtained a lot of grants from partners from across the SACOG board we both serve on, Mayor, has backed this effort for over a decade. And I can't speak any better than Mayor Pro Tem Orozco did about the issues, the process our staff went through. This isn't our first rodeo, right? We've dealt with, I know, I'm conscious I've been through more of the contracting process, and they're all great questions. And I saw the bid advisory. I didn't think much of it because we've seen them before. And we've tried to always work toward getting the projects done. That's how West Sac is operated, is we're gonna ask really good questions. I don't fault your question. I think you had really great questions. But we have to put our trust in the staff, in our processes. If you want to ask them to check in with you in 30 days to see where they are, I would say, yes, they're shaking their head. They're happy to do it, to make sure they're obliging. But I'm not going to skirt around that. We're legally obligated to accept it. So, and I'm really going to be hard pressed to say no to the grant funding that we've obligated. I'm proud of the work and going to the sunset of my council career that we've spent so much effort in this part of West Sacramento. I know a lot of folks don't see it. They haven't been coming here in the last 10 years that I've been on council to see the work we've done. And this is one of the results. To provide amenities, it's actually an active transportation project. It helps people get to safely, ADA compliant, from A to B in one of the areas that we just don't have, as Mayor Pro Tem Orozco pointed out, they don't get the benefit of impact fees. Why? This is if I had a frustration point about it, and I don't blame anybody. It's a system we're in, right? It's a system of how we fund local government. The new stuff, why does the South get it? It's because it's all new property and it gets the benefit of impact. Thanks, Prop 13, for helping us do that. And the North, which doesn't have a lot of new development, they do get some, but we have to beg, scratch, claw for every grant we get to get to these types of projects that will have a direct benefit to the residents we serve. So I am super supportive of this. I'm super excited about it. I would ask staff, I heed those questions very well. I would like a check-in in 30 to 60 days, please, to make sure they are obliging by prevailing wage, right? And any other point, because I have seen, I think, Ben, you've maybe come back with contractors who we thought bid very well, and there's construction contingencies. There's things that happen. We've gotten sick and tired of contractors that have done that, and that's when you're in a construction game, like that's when you're building stuff, and we have to build stuff. This is what we all talk about. It's campaign season. I don't have anything to lose by saying this. We all going to run on infrastructure. This is it. This is it, right? We're going to tell our constituents that, I'm not. This is what we do. And so I am really proud of staff, and the fact that they got the engineer's report at 2.1 million, almost exactly what they came in at, I'll take it. In this environment where other projects, Katie's here on her retirement, and you're sunsetting too, we have a couple of projects that never made it this far. We were so hopeful that we'd see construction contracts on private projects come in that would have provided housing this young man has been coming and asking for. They're not coming in because of high prices of steel or lumber or whatever the case, escalating costs. This one came in, and this will provide walkways for our community. I mean, how much more basic can we get than that? So I'm super supportive. I'm excited about the riverfront, this whole completion of this trail, and I would ask staff to please, but I'm not dismissing at all the questioning that's here, because it is important. Every one of these bids that get on consent calendar, whatever, we know you're watching, but do watch this one, because I think they ask really pertinent questions, and these folks who put out these advisories, they I don't know what their motive is, but it spurred curiosity from us. And I know at least Norma has served on the board, so she knew education, so she knows how this works. And I respect her kind of perspective, because we've all had challenges with contractors. You have challenges with contractors when you have a home project. It happens, but we're doing the best due diligence we can. I trust in it, because it's worked, because we've got a lot of infrastructure to show for it. So that's my perspective. I will be supportive of this. with an ask for staff just to make sure we can touch base in the next 30, 60 days.
Can I ask another question? Sure. So I think if I'm understanding this right, I'll keep highlighting, I've been here 10 months, that we're legally obligated to take the lowest bidder. Am I?
Correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
So for whatever reason, if we weren't to pass this today, we would lose the $716,000 for this project.
Yeah,
Most likely, the project would not happen. If we tried to go out for another bid, if I'm following, if we try to go out for another bid, potentially the bidder that we've shown here, could they sue us?
Well, if the council were inclined to go that, then my recommendation would be that you reject all bids. So you wouldn't be awarding it to the second or the third low bidder. You'd be rejecting all the bids and rebidding it. But that would set you back.
But we would lose the $716,000 and most likely kill the
I
project.
can jump in from there. Yeah, any delay at this point risks putting the CDBG funding at risk and the construction timeline going into flood season. I'm sorry, when I say flood season, rain season, where you can't do work on the levee, and that's an essential part of this project. So we're losing a year, potentially losing a lot of money, and potentially coming in with much higher bids.
And probably most importantly, a community that really
Yeah.
needs investment would not get it.
That's right.
Based on this decision.
Yeah,
So even if maybe I have some inkling and feeling like I've heard from my fellow council members, like, oh, not exactly comfortable. It sounds like we'd be killing the project. If I were to step back and abstain or something like that. Another question. Go ahead.
To go back to your specific question, no, I am not. If you rejected all bids, I am not concerned about exposure to the low bidder, because you have the right to reject.
But if we picked another bidder on this list.
What you don't have the right to do is reject the low bidder without being able to make a finding that they are either non-responsive or not responsible. Responsiveness is not an issue. That is completing the forms correctly. Responsibility would require, in my opinion, a much more evidence than what you have before you right now.
Got it. So we couldn't pick any of these other bidders. That's not. So we either reject it all and then just kill the project and hurt our community, or potentially what we have here is working with staff, trusting staff. That's what I heard, and then also working with staff so that they are checking to ensure that maybe some of the anxiousness that I'm hearing here is alleviated, because you will be checking in and doing your due diligence, come back to us and say, nope, whatever they did in the past, they're not doing it in West Sac, because we don't play that.
Yep.
Am I getting that right? Okay, all right.
Well, one could surmise that if we're discussing this now, they would at least be unawares that this is a concern that they probably will not, cross.
Try to stiff their workers.
So, but as far as I'm concerned, for the reasons mentioned, I mean, a vote for this project at this time is a vote for an investment in the north side of town, and for that reason, I am in full support.
And I'd like to add that that's not, I would appreciate if I speak for myself in this case, that I'm not voting for this, not for that reason. I am very supportive of the North River Rock Trail Extension project. I have been asking for a project labor agreement process where the signatory companies that is, I think, bidder, 2 and 3, they're not like they're union companies, they're just signatories. Would be following and be in compliance with the prevailing wage and all the other, and would not be in a situation where they're being fined by the state. And that is the bidder. And I'm not saying, to Councilmember, Early, who's interested in moving this along, but.
I started with I'm uncomfortable. So.
Listen, but I mean, I think when the debate is extending to a position, beyond what I've stated is where I'm going to be providing some clarification.
You're entitled to do so. I'm stating my position and why.
Right. But I am stating that I am very supportive. We've been trying to work on a process where bidders here are responsible In my opinion, the word responsible is something that is up for debate tonight, given what we've been informed in the bid advisory. I've not been able to find additional information, but it seems to be insufficient to make any adjustments. And there's a process that I've learned about that would, move us into the second or third bidder at this time. So we don't have the time for tonight's vote, and I'm going to step back from voting, not because I don't appreciate the project. I think it's definitely a project that would help the community provide access to bike and pedestrian pathways that are much needed and long overdue in this community. But I cannot, and I'm not asking again for all the council members not to vote. It's just my position on this.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I am going to vote in support of this because I don't want to lose the funding. I do have faith in our staff that you always do the right thing, but I think you've heard very clearly from some of us that we have a real problem with companies that try and, excuse the word, screw their employees. And I think that's something that I really want to be making a point on. Yeah, I think when you review these things, it's one of the reasons we didn't accept a lot of projects over at the school district. Some of the applicants actually lied, on whether they'd had legal problems in the past or not. It's a good thing I used to, be vigilant on that. So I just want to make that really clear also. I know it's the cheapest, but like I said, you get what you pay for. And we've seen that, unfortunately, with some of the projects. But I know the constraints you're working under. And also, I do want to see this project move forward. Better some, not have it at all.
Well, if there's no further discussion, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the recommended.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem Orozco moved and Councilmember Ledesma seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Early.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orozco.
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero.
No. Next is our administrative function part 2 is our council communications from our assignments. Are there any communications from any of our assignments?
Just real quickly, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, on August 4th, attended the SACOG Transportation Committee meeting. And speaking of trail systems, one of the things we passed, thanks to SACOG, we're very much prevalent on the regional trail network strategy. Many times on top tier 1, which was kind of a prioritization of regional assets and trails. This is, again, as you're aware, Madam Mayor, because you'll see it in the greater SACOG meeting. This is the network where the SACOG is identifying and connecting all the regional trails that shows the connectivity throughout the region and where the priority ones are. And that helps provide a lens for funding, where we get a lot of funding to help bridge these gaps we just heard about. So again, thanks to SACOG for kind of prioritizing West Sac. Included in there is another big project that we have for our residents, our neighbors in the north, which is the I Street deck conversion, which is a big project, again, to kind of facilitate more pedestrian access across the river. These are the things we have to do to continue keeping the city moving. And so I appreciate SACOG's continued support of West Sac and all our projects. That's all I have for now.
For the Housing Authority, we took up an issue that is important to me as someone who lived in low-income housing, and we know that it, especially after COVID, was really hard, and folks got behind on their rents, and we talked about and approved getting rid of some of the debt and making sure that folks were up to date, and so having some of that forgiveness for that period of time. And so really, really important vote. I'm actually very happy that I'm on that particular committee.
Thank you. Any other? Okay. No. Council calendar?
Good evening. Just a reminder that tomorrow night there's the tour of the SMUD Museum of Science and Curiosity. That's at 4:30. And then the following Saturday, the 27th, At 5 o'clock is the West Sac Play Farm to Park dinner at.
Next is our city manager report.
Yeah, so just one item tonight. We have a special guest with us, and I can call her a special guest because she's no longer a city employee because she just retired as of Friday. Katie Jacobson had been with the city for almost as long as I have, 15 years, yeah. And so Katie joined us tonight, both because I asked her to be here so we could spend some time honoring her, but also I thought it was very appropriate that the riverfront, the North Riverwalk Trail project was on the agenda tonight, and it was something that she had been working on for probably about half of that time she's been with the city. But that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the impact Katie Jacobson has had on West Sacramento. Those of you that have been even on the council for a year, or those of you that have been on the council for, I keep forgetting, a lot longer, know very well that impact, and you've seen it in places all around, not just the riverfront, but mainly we talk about the riverfront. We think of places like the Bridge District and the Washington District and the amount of investment that the city's made and been able to attract public-private investment in those areas. Katie's fingerprints are all over that. And but also it's the smaller things, the things that we don't always, we appreciate in the moment, but then they're sort of, okay, those things have always been there. You think of the Mill Street Pier, the dock at the Riverwalk, the Rayleigh's Landing dock, the Etinesh dock, the full name. Public art, that's the one I really need to talk about when we talk about Katie. And that's because until Katie came along, public art was sort of something that commercial developers did in parking lots because we had some program where they had to. But Katie really pushed the envelope and drove a real public art program in the city. It's not easy to do public art. You all have had some experience with that over the years. But it's something when we look at the subtile sculpture in the Bridge District and the 18 months it took and the almost congressional action she had to advocate to get it there. All of the other art along the riverfront that is there now and also is in the works is really thanks to Katie's leadership and really being a driving force behind that and so much more. So I know the council probably wants to say some things, but just wanted to thank Katie in this setting and thank her so much for the work she's done and the years I got to work with her and learn from her also. I've got something for you from the council, but I'll be right back. So go ahead.
Oh, she's going to. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Katie.
Go ahead,
Come
Katie.
on in. Serving the city for the past 16 years has really been the highlight and the honor and privilege of my career. I was very happy to be here tonight to see the Riverwalk project cross the finish line finally. Oh, thank you. I can remember being in this chamber in 2014 and listening to the residents in the Washington neighborhood come forward and beseech council to plead. They advocated for the Riverwalk North project. They requested that council make it a top investment priority. And so it's really fabulous for me to see it cross the finish line today. And I think that they're probably at home watching as well. And I think this project, I know that council has many weighty considerations, and I totally understand that and understand the dialogue. But I think this project also exemplifies what makes the city so powerful and strong in that our council and our staff really stand up to doing these very difficult projects that take years and years of permitting, and they're very transformational and they deliver huge impacts to the community. And that's why those residents came into the council chambers to advocate, because of the huge impact it would have on their quality of life in that neighborhood. And I can tell you there's huge impacts of this project on quality of life, on safety, security, recreation, health, so connectivity, sustainability, mixed use. So I'm just very pleased, and I have a deep regard for all my colleagues and affection for my colleagues, both inside my department and outside my department, for the city manager and council that have just worked so tirelessly to realize the council's vision for developing new, sustainable, connected neighborhoods on our riverfront corridor. And I'm absolutely certain that you will see in the future, based on the deep talent bench that remains in the city, you'll see even much more exciting developments in your riverfront area. I'm certain of that, and I look forward to seeing the next generation of leaders.
Thank you, Katie. Hey, I'm sure we have a few comments here. We'll start to my right, Councilmember Ledesma.
Well, Aaron did the inventory of list of things for me. And Katie, I don't know where to start with you, because my 12 years being here, and then, like I said, the 10 years before that, these things just happen, right? And this work comes up that we make policy findings for, or what we approve contracts like we do, or whatever. The amount of work and to get there is one thing, but when I think of what we've done, we couldn't have done it without you, because your heart went into every bit of thing. Now, here's the things when I think about Katie. Like, I'm thinking of one piece of artwork, Subtile, which nobody, like, it's one of the most Instagrammed photos in the region. Subtile on the riverfront. How long did that take to get through water resources?
2 years of permitting, and Congresswoman Matsui had to go
Intervene.
into the Army
That's
Corps
right.
of Engineers twice to finally persuade them to issue that permit.
Yeah, this was not something that just Mayor Baldwin or myself or whoever was here at the time, we said, we want a sculpture. We wanted artwork. And, none of us have that artistic eye. But the care you put into making sure we got, again, the artist, a premier artist with a premier project, the tireless work to kind of put in that kind of effort to see it happen on the riverfront where people will walk and recreate and live now as West finally goes up, right? So that's just to me what I think about you. It's just your commitment, and that, and the which I know staff is going to kill me about. You're not on it anymore. The 5th Street Garage and the event you put there, because you were so heartfelt about having art in our culture and how we provide it. You created and put together that wonderful event, which activated 5th and C for an afternoon with live music, artwork, and then you got public engagement, like from people from the neighborhood are walking in, putting dots on what they wanted to see, and they could feel like what you cared about. And that's the part I appreciate you, Katie, because all of this that we were doing, even Washington neighborhood, I knew we didn't talk about the sidewalk art that we laid into it and the contest we did for that. I can just go on and on and on, and just want to say thank you. And your name doesn't get to go on the plaque, ours does, and whatever, but in my heart, I know you were behind a lot of this, and I know the work you did on it. I'm so thankful for all you've done for our community. Really, I just really thank you for that. So, and wish you the best on your next adventure.
Thank you.
Well, Katie, it's been about 6 years between us, and I have to say, I have learned so much from you. And every time we have a presentation or we have an opportunity to hear from you, it's something I have always looked forward to, not only for the content of whatever message you're delivering us at any given time, but just the depth of your knowledge and the commitment to every project that you put forth. And not only that, you have this super cool, eclectic spirit that it's attractive, it's creative, it's just visionary. Today I learned you retired, and I screamed when I heard that, because I can't imagine this city without you leading our vision. And, whether it's the purple hair, whatever lens you're looking through to see our city, I want that too. You have left an indelible mark on every part of the city that you've touched. And what my colleague says is true. I have a friend whose album cover is that Subtile. I'm not kidding. His CD, he's like looking somewhere else. No one in the camera's taking his picture, but he's like, hey, I'm not looking at you. And it's amazing. But, your spirit, it's undeniably unparalleled in my experience. And so, Katie, you're going to leave a gaping hole as you depart, but I know that you have other places to touch. And I know that there are other colors of hair that you want to experiment with. I'll leave you with this. I know that I can speak for my colleague Oscar Villegas and Mark Johannesson and Bab Sandine and Christopher Cabald and every single person that you have touched when I say that you got mad, hustle, and a dope soul. So congratulations to you, Katie.
Katie, I've only been, well, not even 2 years on the council, but I've had great conversations with you. And I have to tell you, I miss so much not being able to see that Festival of Lights that you had on the bridge. My son and the rest of the family was out of town, and they told me it was fantastic. So, oh my God, it was beautiful. It was magical. And that is so important, you know. In the city, a lot of work has to be done, and we sometimes forget about things that really change the quality of our life. And that's what you've done for the city of West Sacramento. Not to dismiss what the great things our staff has done, but it's definitely something very unique to have someone, you know, remember that, you know, art makes the world go round. And you and I've had more conversations, you know, about things that we could do, you know, to make each unique corner of West Sacramento really stand out and make people proud in their neighborhoods. So I wrote those down. I still have them. And I know that even though you're going to retire, you're probably going to be right out there, you know, coming back to, yes, I was going to say that. And I know that because no one really retires from something that they love. So just thank you so much for bringing beauty and culture into West Sacramento. It means a lot. Thank you.
Well, we haven't been working together long. But I love our city, and I do think that part of what makes our city so unique is the art, is the culture that we have, and I truly believe that the culture and the art and the diversity are the soul of West Sacramento, and you've contributed to that heart and soul. I will say a few things about our Riverwalk and the tiles. I had no idea you were behind it, by the way. I can tell you it was just a few weeks ago. I was sitting at Franquette, which you will often see me sitting at, and it was nighttime, and I'm sitting there with my husband, and off in the distance, you see the sparkling, right, along the walkway, and we were like, what is that? What is that? And we just took a walk. Right? It made us want to explore even more our city and what was out there. And then we got there and we're like, oh my gosh. And we had seen, it's not as if we hadn't seen it before, but at night with, right, everything happening, it's so beautiful. And we just started, right, photo shoot immediately. My husband was like, get out there, let me take some pictures of you. Right? But it was, and that is what art does. It piques your curiosity. It makes you want to learn more, and that's what you've done for our city. The other part I will say is I have been very, very proud when other leaders across the river have commented on how well West Sacramento is doing art along the river. I won't name names, but when I saw some of those posts, I was like, yeah, that's me. Right? You make us proud to be here as well. And so thank you so much for everything that you have contributed. You are leaving a legacy, and you should be proud, and I hope you know how appreciative we are of you.
Well, Katie, we go back a little bit, and the purple hair, yes. I remember the question and your giggle after that. It was quite the experience during COVID, but you never stopped a beat there. You kept hustling and moving forward to keeping what we were trying to accomplish in the city, you know, on target, on a timely manner. And my experience in the artwork, thanks to you, you know, I've look at the Chronicles of Narnia, when we all go through some hard times and we have experiences and we take that walk along the riverfront. Your artwork takes us to a place that brings peace and just causes us to pause and enjoy the moment. And I remember bringing in from the Sacramento Valley Division individuals from all around the region, and part of the process was to go from the Washington district over to the Bridge district and walk along that path. It wasn't a long walk. Why? It didn't feel like it because we had the visuals along the way and pictures. Everyone was taking the pictures and enjoying the tiles and just expressing how beautiful the riverfront looks today, thanks to a lot of what you've put into it along with the team, your vision. And I am so appreciative that we get to, showcase, and they'll come back. We get to showcase all the wonderful achievements that have been made, the investments due to your vision and the vision of everybody here, to see it come to fruition now so quickly, now that it is here. The Lantern Festival was just such a magical night. When I heard about it, we would have no idea what we would be walking into. But seeing it, I just cannot explain how beautiful it was and how much, it was packed up there. And everybody was talking about it for a long time. But that's because of your vision to be able to see things in the future and bringing us all together to fight for something that is worthwhile, to see what can be accomplished if you just had a dream, a vision. And we're going to make it happen. We're not giving up. None of us are. And we want to make it. We want to make it happen. The artwork that I've talked about publicly, where it became controversial, I will stand and defend that, because that is a vision of our city. That is who we are, what you've accomplished. And I will stand by it, because I think it's something that we need to step outside of our comfort zone. We need to move beyond what we normally see on a regular basis, and we need to imagine and then carry that further for our city, for our future, for our kids to enjoy. And that west sign, I don't know how many times that place has been photographed and how we enjoy it. Councilmember, our Mayor Pro Tem Orozco had it in her, backdrop in her, photo for a while. And, we just love it. We love it, embrace it, and enjoy it every single day while we're here in the city. And the infrastructure that you have put into all this hard work, where we can, fight it and try to get that funding. So when that happens, we look forward to seeing you. We have the word retired annuitant after your name, because you're coming back to help us out. The closed session, like Mayor Pro Tem Orozco said, I think I had a little bit of a moment of despair when we were talking about something, and I'm like, well, who's going to fight it? Because you weren't there. Oh, we got plenty of stuff. I know we do, but we do have that talented bench. I get it. And I appreciate that you did groom and get people to step up and do what you've accomplished. So that's what that was about, Aaron. So I have to say that you will be truly missed for being able to see you every day. Your talking points to help me understand and to sit down and go over what was going on with the I Street Bridge and what we needed to accomplish. You broke it down for me. You helped me to understand what was happening, and for all of us here. But we know that your depth of understanding, your knowledge is going to be greatly missed. And we do know the staff are all well prepared to carry this on and moving it forward. So absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for your dedication, your 16 years of service. Thank you.
All right, Katie.
Hope you take that out.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right, no staff city attorney report. All right, staff direction from city council members, none. Future agenda items, request by council, none. And I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Early.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma. Mayor Pro Tem Orozco.
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.